She saved a cowboy's dying horse. What he gave her changed both their lives. Forever, Emma had always felt a special connection with animals. Ever since she was a little girl, she had spent her days wandering around fields, talking to birds, stroking the soft fur of stray dogs, or sitting quietly near horses in her uncle's small stable. Her love for animals was gentle but powerful. She never treated them as just creatures. To her, they were friends, teachers, and companions. She often dreamed of opening a small sanctuary where animals could be safe and loved. But for now, she lived in a quiet rural town where life was simple and everyone knew each other. Her days were usually filled with chores, visits to neighbors, or helping at the local animal shelter. But she always longed for something meaningful to happen, something that would let her truly make a difference. One late afternoon, the sun was beginning to set, casting long golden shadows across the dirt trail that ran alongside the old ranches on the outskirts of town. Emma had decided to take a walk to enjoy the cool evening air, carrying a small bag with water and snacks, just in case she met any animals in need. She followed the familiar path lined with tall grass, listening to the wind rustling through the leaves and the faint calls of birds returning to their nests. The smell of the earth after a light rain lingered in the air, refreshing and comforting. As she rounded a bend in the trail, Emma noticed something unusual. At first, she thought it might be a large rock or fallen log, but then she realized it was moving slightly. Her heart quickened as she approached carefully, and she froze for a moment. There, lying on the side of the trail, was a magnificent horse. Its coat was dark and glossy, though now it was dull and matted with mud. The horse's breathing was shallow and uneven, and it struggled to lift its head. Emma's stomach tightened. She had seen sick or injured animals before, but this horse was in real trouble. She knelt a few feet away, speaking softly to it in the calmest voice she could manage. "Hey there, it's okay. I'm here to help," she whispered, keeping her movements slow so she wouldn't startle it. The horse lifted its head slightly and gave a weak whinny, but it clearly did not have the strength to stand. Emma scanned the surrounding area for any signs of help. She noticed a small tag on the horse's halter which read Luke Ranch. She realized this must belong to the cowboy who owned it. Emma knew she had to act fast. She reached into her bag and pulled out a bottle of water, offering it to the horse. At first it didn't respond, but after a few minutes it drank slowly. She could feel its trembling as she held the bottle near its mouth. Her mind raced as she thought about what to do next. She needed to get the horse somewhere safe and provide care until it could be fully treated. She knew the nearest vet was a few miles away, and without proper equipment, it would be difficult to move the horse on her own. Just as she was trying to figure out a plan, she heard the sound of hooves and a familiar, steady voice calling out, "Thunder! Thunder, where are you?" A tall man appeared on the trail, his boots kicking up dust as he ran toward the horse. He was dressed in typical ranch clothing, jeans, a plaid shirt, and a wide-brimmed hat. His face was rugged, weathered from years in the sun, and his eyes were filled with a mixture of panic and anger. This was Luke, the cowboy whose name was on the halter. At first, Luke seemed furious. "What are you doing with my horse? Step back," he shouted, his tone sharp and commanding. Emma froze for a moment, startled by his intensity, but she didn't move. "Sir, the horse is in bad shape. It might not survive if we don't act now." "I'm just trying to help," she said gently. Luke's eyes narrowed as he looked at her, measuring whether he could trust her words. Horses were not just animals to him, they were partners, family, and a legacy. He had worked hard to train Thunder, and the thought of someone interfering made him uneasy. But as he approached, he saw the care in Emma's eyes, the way she was patiently encouraging Thunder to drink, the calm way she moved her hands so as not to frighten the animal. Slowly, his tension began to soften. He realized she wasn't just some meddling stranger, she genuinely cared about the horse's life. He knelt down beside her, keeping a watchful eye on Thunder. "Okay, you might be right," he admitted reluctantly. "He's been struggling all day, and I haven't been able to get him to drink." Emma smiled softly, relieved that he was listening. "We need to keep him calm and hydrated. Do you have any blankets or water buckets nearby?" she asked. Luke nodded and ran back to his pickup truck parked nearby, returning with supplies. Together, they managed to provide Thunder with water, wrap him in a blanket to keep him warm, and prop him up carefully so he could rest without straining himself. The next hour was tense but hopeful. Emma talked to Thunder constantly, her voice low and soothing, while Luke observed, offering occasional instructions. He started to appreciate her knowledge and courage. "You've handled animals before, haven't you?" he asked, genuine curiosity replacing his earlier suspicion. Emma nodded. "Yes, I've worked at a shelter for years. I know how to calm them down and keep them stable until they can get proper care." As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, Emma noticed a subtle change in Thunder. His ears perked slightly, and he shifted his weight as if trying to stand. A small whinny escaped his lips, not as weak as before. Luke's eyes widened in surprise. "Looks like he's responding to you," he said quietly, almost in awe. Emma reached out her hand slowly, letting Thunder sniff it. The horse nuzzled her fingers gently, and for a moment everything seemed calm. Luke realized that Emma had done more than just help his horse. She had given him hope when he had felt helpless. He had been ready to accept that Thunder might be lost, but this young woman had brought a light into the situation. He felt a strange mix of gratitude and curiosity about her. Who was she? Why did she care so much about a horse she had never met before? As the sky darkened and evening settled over the ranch, Luke knew they couldn't leave Thunder alone for the night. He agreed to let Emma stay until he could arrange proper transportation to the vet the next morning. They set up a small area with hay and blankets, and Emma stayed close, talking to Thunder in soft tones. Luke watched from a distance, feeling an unfamiliar sense of peace. He had always been self-reliant, handling problems on his own, but today he had learned that accepting help was not a weakness. It could save a life. By the time the stars began to twinkle overhead, Thunder's breathing had become steadier. He even managed to lift his head and nuzzle Emma's shoulder, as if thanking her. Luke felt a lump in his throat. He had never seen his horse respond this way to anyone besides himself. Something about Emma's calm determination and gentle touch had made all the difference. As Emma prepared to rest nearby, she looked at Luke and said, "I think he'll make it. He just needed someone to stay with him and show him he wasn't alone." Luke nodded, his eyes reflecting a mix of relief and admiration. "I can't thank you enough," he said quietly. "You saved him, and I think you saved me from losing hope too." That night, as the cool breeze whispered through the ranch and the faint sounds of other horses carried in the distance, Emma and Luke sat in quiet companionship, united by their shared care for Thunder. Neither of them knew yet how this encounter would change their lives, but both felt that something important had begun. A bond had formed, not just between human and horse, but between two people whose paths had crossed in the most unexpected way. And as they watched Thunder slowly lift his head and look at them with bright, trusting eyes, they both felt a deep sense of promise. Something was starting that neither of them could have predicted, something that would grow, evolve, and shape the days to come. The next morning, the ranch was bathed in a soft, golden light. The sun had just begun to rise over the rolling hills, casting a warm glow across the wooden fences, open pastures, and the dirt trail where Thunder had nearly collapsed. Emma had been up since before dawn, checking on the horse every few minutes. She wanted to make sure he had rested well through the night. She quietly brushed his coat, noting that it already looked shinier and healthier than it had the day before. His breathing was calm, and his eyes seemed more alert, even trusting. Luke came outside, carrying a bucket of fresh water. His face was calm but thoughtful. The events of the previous evening had left an impression on him he couldn't shake. He had always been practical, relying only on himself when it came to the ranch and his animals. Asking for or accepting help wasn't something he did lightly. But seeing Emma's dedication, patience, and kindness toward Thunder had changed something inside him. He found himself curious about her life and her gentle way with animals. "Morning," he said quietly, tipping his hat as he approached. Emma smiled. "Morning, Luke. I checked on Thunder all night." "He seems stronger this morning." Luke nodded, kneeling beside the horse to check his breathing. "Yeah, he's better. Can't believe it. He's standing steady, too. That's a good sign." Emma's heart lifted. Seeing Thunder on his feet, moving carefully but with confidence, filled her with joy. The bond between the horse and her had grown overnight, and she felt proud that she could help him recover. "I thought about it last night," Luke said, his voice softer than before. "I've never let anyone near my horses like that, but you knew what to do. You stayed calm even when I was losing it. I guess I owe you more than just thanks." Emma shook her head gently. "I didn't do it for thanks. I just wanted him to live." "That's all that mattered." Luke looked at her, seeing her sincerity in her eyes. He nodded slowly. "Still, I want to repay you somehow. You saved Thunder. You didn't have to, but you did." They spent the morning tending to Thunder together. Luke showed Emma how to check his hooves, how to guide him slowly to pasture, and how to encourage him to drink water without stress. Emma listened carefully, absorbing every word. Though she had experience with animals, working with a horse as large and strong as Thunder required understanding his movements and moods in ways she hadn't done before. As they worked, Emma found herself relaxing in Luke's quiet presence. He wasn't talkative, but there was a steadiness to him, a calm reliability that made it easy for her to focus on the horse and trust the process. During a break, Emma sat on a wooden fence, sipping water from her bottle while Luke leaned against the barn. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of hay, leather, and the earth warmed by the sun. "So, you want to have a sanctuary someday?" Luke asked, breaking the comfortable silence. He sounded curious, not teasing. Emma nodded, her eyes lighting up. "Yes. I want to give animals a safe place to heal, a home if they don't have one. It's always been my dream." Luke smiled faintly. "That's impressive. Takes a lot of courage and patience to do that." Emma shrugged, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I just can't ignore them when they're suffering. It feels wrong not to help." They returned to Thunder, who was now grazing slowly in the pasture. Emma moved carefully, letting him nibble grass while she observed his strength and stamina. Luke watched her, noticing the gentle way she handled the reins and her quiet confidence. He felt something he hadn't expected, a sense of respect, even admiration, for this woman who had come into his life so suddenly and taken charge of a situation he had feared was hopeless. As the day went on, they shared stories. Emma talked about growing up in a small town, always surrounded by animals, and how she had volunteered at shelters to learn everything she could about caring for them. Luke spoke about life on the ranch, the hard work, the quiet mornings and long evenings, and the bond he had formed with Thunder over the years. He explained that Thunder wasn't just a working horse. He was a companion, a friend he had relied on through thick and thin. Emma listened intently, feeling honored that he trusted her with these personal details. Around midday, the sky darkened slightly with clouds. A light breeze blew, carrying the fresh scent of rain. Thunder began to look restless, shifting his weight nervously. Emma quickly noticed and guided him to a secure corner of the pasture, speaking softly to calm him. Luke approached, seeing her focus and concern. "He doesn't like storms," Luke said quietly. "Gets nervous easily," Emma nodded. "I can handle it. Just need to keep him calm and steady." For the next hour, they worked together, gently reassuring Thunder, moving slowly and maintaining a calm atmosphere. By the time the clouds cleared, Thunder had settled, his muscles relaxed, and his breathing even. Luke couldn't help but be impressed. He had dealt with nervous horses before, but he had never seen someone handle it with such patience and understanding. He began to see Emma not just as someone who had saved his horse, but as a person who could teach him something he hadn't realized he needed to learn: compassion in the face of worry, trust in the face of fear. After lunch, they decided to take Thunder for a short walk around the property. Emma walked beside him, her hand lightly on his neck, while Luke led him with a rope. Thunder moved steadily, his hooves making soft thuds on the earth, and his ears flicked forward as if listening to every word Emma said. Luke watched, feeling an unexpected warmth in his chest. He had spent years relying on strength and skill alone, but seeing Emma's gentle influence made him realize that sometimes strength came in quieter, gentler forms. As the sun began to dip again in the late afternoon, Emma suggested they practice a few simple exercises to help Thunder regain stamina. Luke agreed, realizing that this collaboration, this willingness to combine knowledge and care, was helping Thunder recover faster than he had expected. They spent several hours walking, trotting, and guiding Thunder through small obstacles. Each time he responded positively, Emma clapped softly and whispered encouragement. Luke found himself quietly smiling, amazed at how quickly the horse was improving. By evening, both Emma and Luke were tired but satisfied. Thunder was calmer, stronger, and clearly grateful for the attention. They fed him and gave him water, making sure he was comfortable before nightfall. Luke leaned against the fence, watching Emma gently pat Thunder's neck. "I can't believe how well he's doing," he said softly. "You really know your stuff," Emma smiled, brushing her hand over Thunder's mane. It's all about paying attention to them, understanding what they need, and being patient. They can feel whether you care or not. Luke nodded, reflecting on the lesson. For the first time in a long time, he felt a deep sense of peace. He realized that saving a life, whether human or animal, wasn't just about skill or strength. It was about heart, and today Emma had shown him exactly that. As night fell, the ranch was quiet except for the soft sounds of horses in the stables and the occasional hoot of an owl. Emma stayed nearby, keeping an eye on Thunder as he rested. Luke came over and sat beside her on the fence, their shoulders almost touching. They didn't speak much, words weren't necessary. The silence was comfortable, filled with shared understanding. Finally, Luke spoke. "I know you didn't come here expecting anything in return," he said, his voice quiet and sincere. "But I think you've changed a lot today. Not just for Thunder, but for me too. I can see how much you care, and it means something." Emma looked at him, her eyes soft and warm. "I'm just glad he's going to be okay." Luke nodded, but there was a quiet intensity in his gaze. "No, it's more than that. I don't know how to explain it. I guess I just feel grateful, and maybe curious about what comes next." Emma smiled faintly, feeling a spark of connection that surprised her. She had never expected this encounter to become so personal, so meaningful. She realized that helping Thunder had not only changed the horse's life, but had also begun to change her own. And for Luke, the day had begun to open his heart in ways he hadn't known were possible. As the stars appeared in the night sky, they sat together, watching the ranch settle into quiet peace. Thunder lay down in the soft hay, breathing steadily and comfortably. Luke glanced at Emma and nodded silently, a gesture of thanks that didn't need words. Emma returned the nod, feeling a quiet sense of pride and fulfillment. Something significant had begun between them, something that neither fully understood yet, but both sensed it would grow into something lasting. And as the night wrapped around the ranch, a promise seemed to hang in the air. A promise that this encounter, this shared care for a single horse, would change the course of their lives forever. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the ranch, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Birds chirped softly, and the fresh scent of grass and hay filled the air. Emma woke early, as usual, her mind already focused on Thunder. The horse had grown stronger each day, but she knew that careful attention was still needed to ensure he fully recovered. She quietly made her way to the pasture, carrying water, feed, and a small grooming kit. Thunder lifted his head when he saw her, and Emma felt a warm thrill of joy. He was alert, calm, and even seemed to recognize the promise of a new day. Luke arrived shortly after, carrying buckets of water and a small brush. He looked at Thunder with a careful eye, noting how well the horse was moving and grazing. "He's doing even better today," he said quietly. "I can't believe how fast he's improving." Emma smiled, brushing her hand across Thunder's mane. "It's all about patience and trust. He knows we're here for him. That makes a huge difference." Luke nodded, his expression thoughtful. Over the past few days, he had observed Emma's dedication and skill. He had always considered himself a capable rancher, experienced with horses and livestock. But he had begun to realize that her calm approach, her deep understanding of the horse's needs, had taught him something new. As the morning passed, they worked together to guide Thunder through gentle exercises. Emma demonstrated slow stretches, encouraging him to move without stress, while Luke watched closely, asking questions and taking careful notes. "I never thought about how much the mind affects the horse's strength," Luke admitted. "I've always focused on the physical side, but you think differently. You consider what he feels." Emma nodded. "Horses are smart. They can sense your emotions. If you're nervous or impatient, they react the same way. Calmness and patience go a long way." By midday, Thunder was moving steadily across the pasture, and both Luke and Emma felt a sense of accomplishment. Luke suggested they take a break, and they sat together near the old wooden fence, enjoying the warm breeze and the quiet of the ranch. The conversation turned to their lives beyond the pasture. Emma spoke about her love for animals and her dream of opening a small sanctuary, a place where injured or abandoned animals could heal and thrive. Luke listened, intrigued. "That's a big dream," he said quietly. "Not everyone has the courage to chase something like that." Emma shrugged, smiling faintly. "It's not always easy, but I can't ignore it. I have to try." Luke considered her words carefully. He had spent most of his life focused on the ranch, following the routines he had learned from his father and grandfather. But watching Emma, he realized that there was more to life than work and survival. There was purpose, care, and connection. And suddenly, the idea of helping someone else realize their dream felt meaningful. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, Luke noticed Emma's attention to detail as she groomed Thunder. She spoke softly, praising him for small actions, adjusting his posture, and encouraging him with gentle strokes. Luke was fascinated by how the horse responded. Every subtle movement from Emma seemed to communicate trust and reassurance. He had always been proud of his own ability to handle horses, but seeing Emma in action made him realize that there was more to handling an animal than strength or skill. It was understanding, patience, and care. After a while, they decided to take Thunder for a longer walk around the property. Emma walked beside him, her hand lightly resting on his neck, while Luke led the horse with a rope. Thunder moved confidently, his steps steady and sure. The rhythmic sound of his hooves on the dirt trail created a sense of calm that spread to both humans. As they walked, they shared stories, laughter, and moments of quiet reflection. Emma learned about the challenges Luke had faced running the ranch, dealing with unpredictable weather, and the responsibilities of caring for animals that were not just work partners, but companions. By mid-afternoon, Emma noticed that Luke had grown more relaxed, his usual reserve softening. She realized that the experience with Thunder had not only healed the horse, but had opened something in him as well. He smiled more freely, laughed softly at her observations, and even allowed himself moments of vulnerability when discussing the ranch and his life. Emma felt a warm sense of satisfaction. She hadn't only helped save a horse, she had also helped someone rediscover trust, connection, and hope. As the day went on, Luke began to consider how he could show his gratitude to Emma. He wanted to give her something meaningful, a gesture that went beyond words. She had saved Thunder, yes, but she had also proven herself dedicated, kind, and skilled in ways that were rare and valuable. Luke reflected on the past few days, realizing that Emma's presence had changed the atmosphere of the ranch. Her energy, care, and optimism had brought life and hope into a place that was often quiet, hard, and routine. That evening, after feeding and caring for Thunder, Luke walked Emma to the edge of the pasture. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple. Luke hesitated, clearly unsure how to begin. "Emma," he said slowly, "I've been thinking, I don't know if you understand how much what you've done means. Not just saving Thunder, but everything. Your patience, your knowledge, your care, you've shown me something I didn't know I needed." Emma looked at him, sensing the depth of his words. She smiled gently. "I'm just glad he's okay, that's all that matters to me." Luke shook his head. "No, it matters more than that. I want to give you something, a gift, something that shows my gratitude and trust. I've been raising a young colt here. He's strong, smart, and healthy. I want you to have him. I want you to take him, train him, care for him. I want you to have the chance to follow your dream, to do something meaningful with your life." Emma froze, stunned. She hadn't expected such a gift or such trust. A young horse raised by a skilled rancher was not a small gift. It was a symbol of respect, recognition, and belief in her abilities. Tears welled in Emma's eyes. She looked at Luke, searching for a sign that he was serious. He nodded, his face calm but sincere. "I know it's a lot, but you've proven that you can handle it, that you care, that you have the patience and heart to make a difference. I want you to take him. He's yours." Emma took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she accepted the gift. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Thank you, I can't believe this." Luke smiled softly. "You don't have to say anything, just take care of him and follow your dreams, that's all I ask." Over the next hour, Luke showed Emma how to care for the colt, teaching her about his habits, personality, and needs. She listened carefully, absorbing every detail. They worked together to guide the young horse through small exercises, building trust and understanding. Emma felt a deep sense of purpose and joy. This was more than just a gift, it was an opportunity, a chance to make a real difference in an animal's life and in turn in her own life. As the stars began to appear in the sky, Emma sat quietly near the colt, stroking his soft mane and whispering to him. Luke watched from a short distance, feeling a quiet pride. He had made the right choice in trusting her. He had given her more than a horse. He had given her hope, opportunity, and belief in herself. And in that moment, he realized that their bond was no longer just about the horse. It had grown into something deeper, mutual respect, admiration, and perhaps the beginning of a lasting friendship, or even more. Emma looked up at Luke, her eyes shining. "I promise I'll take good care of him," she said softly. Luke nodded, a smile touching his lips. "I know you will. You've already proven that you can handle thunder. This young one is in good hands." They stood together, side by side, watching the quiet ranch as night settled in. The air was cool and calm, carrying the faint scent of grass and horses, and both of them felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. And in that moment, they understood that this was not the end of their journey, but the beginning. A journey of trust, care, and shared purpose that would shape their lives in ways they could not yet imagine. From saving a single horse to the promise of new beginnings, their lives had already changed forever, and the days ahead were filled with hope, possibility, and the quiet strength that comes from genuine connection. The following morning, the ranch was quiet and peaceful. The sun rose slowly, casting warm golden light across the rolling fields. Emma could hardly sleep the night before. She had been thinking about the young colt Luke had entrusted to her. Holding him, brushing him, feeling his gentle trust, it all felt like a promise, a new beginning. She had decided to name him Hope because that was exactly what he represented, a chance to make a difference, to grow, and to nurture life with care. Emma stepped into the pasture, the soft morning grass brushing her boots. Hope was waiting near the fence, his ears flicking forward as he watched her approach. She smiled, kneeling to scratch behind his ears. He nuzzled her hand gently, and she felt a surge of warmth in her heart. Next to him, Thunder grazed calmly, already familiar with her touch and voice. The two horses together created a sense of harmony that made Emma's heart lift. Luke appeared shortly after, carrying a bucket of feed. He watched Emma with a quiet pride. Over the past days, he had realized how much Emma had changed the atmosphere of the ranch. Her care, patience, and dedication had not only saved Thunder, but had also brought life, joy, and hope to a place that had felt routine and quiet for far too long. He approached slowly, not wanting to disturb her connection with the horses. "Morning," he said, tipping his hat. Emma looked up and smiled warmly. "Morning, Luke. Ready to help me with Hope today?" Luke chuckled softly. "Of course. Let's see what this little one can do." They began with simple exercises. Emma gently guided Hope around the pasture, letting him feel confident and secure while introducing light commands. Luke watched closely, offering occasional advice and encouragement. Hope was young and curious, sometimes hesitant, but he responded to Emma's calm, steady voice. Every time he took a step correctly, she whispered praise and gently patted him. Luke couldn't help but notice how natural it was for her to connect with animals. Her touch, her voice, her calm presence, all of it seemed to communicate more than words ever could. As the morning passed, Luke joined Emma in teaching Hope to respond to basic commands. They walked side by side, their hands sometimes brushing against each other, their voices soft as they encouraged the colt. The trust Hope had in Emma seemed to grow with every step. Luke could see it in the way the young horse followed her guidance without fear. He realized that this experience was not just about training a horse. It was about building a bond, about patience, empathy, and understanding. During a short break, Emma leaned against the fence, brushing her hands over Hope's mane while he nibbled at some hay. Luke stood nearby, watching her quietly. "You know," he said slowly, "I've been doing this for years, raising horses, training them, taking care of them, but I've never seen anyone work with them like you do." Emma looked at him, her eyes soft. "It's about patience and trust. You can't rush them or force them. They have to feel safe, feel your care. That's what makes them listen." Luke nodded thoughtfully. "I see that now. You've taught me something important, something I didn't know I was missing." As the sun climbed higher, they guided Hope through more exercises, increasing his confidence and strength. Thunder watched nearby, calm and steady, providing a sense of security for the young colt. Emma encouraged the two horses to interact, letting Hope learn from Thunder's experience. Slowly, Hope became more adventurous, exploring the pasture, testing his strength, and responding to Emma's guidance with trust and excitement. By midday, Luke suggested they take a break and rest in the shade of a large oak tree. They shared a simple meal, sitting side by side on a wooden bench. The quiet sounds of the ranch, the wind in the trees, the soft rustle of the horses' movements, the distant call of birds, made the moment feel peaceful and special. Emma felt a warmth in her heart, realizing how much this experience had already changed her life. She had always loved animals, but now she was learning about trust, connection, and teamwork in ways she had never imagined. Luke spoke quietly, almost in reflection. "You know, I didn't expect to meet someone like you here. Someone who would come into my life and change it without even trying." Emma smiled softly. "I didn't come here expecting anything either. I just wanted to help Thunder. But sometimes, the things that change our lives aren't the ones we plan for." Luke nodded, feeling the truth in her words. After their break, they returned to the pasture. Luke suggested introducing Hope to a few small obstacles, helping him learn balance and confidence. Emma guided him gently, encouraging him to step over logs and around small barriers. Hope was hesitant at first, but trusted Emma completely, moving carefully with her guidance. Each success brought soft claps, gentle pats, and whispers of encouragement. Luke stood nearby, impressed with how much progress the young horse was making. He realized that the combination of Emma's patience and her love for animals was creating results far beyond what he had expected. As afternoon approached, Emma noticed the colt beginning to tire. She slowed the exercises, letting Hope rest and graze. Luke helped her set up water and hay, and together they ensured both horses were comfortable. The trust and teamwork between Emma and Luke had grown steadily. They didn't need constant conversation. Their actions and shared focus on the horses created a connection that was deep and meaningful. By evening, the pasture was calm and golden with the sunset light. Emma led Hope and Thunder back to the stable, brushing them carefully and ensuring they were fed and watered. Luke watched, feeling a quiet satisfaction. He had given Emma a gift, yes, but in return, she had given something to the ranch that he hadn't realized it was missing: life, hope, and a sense of care that went beyond routine work. Emma looked at Luke as she finished tending to the horses. "I feel like this is just the beginning," she said softly. "Not just for me, but for all of us. There's so much we can do together, Thunder, Hope, and us." Luke nodded, a quiet smile crossing his face. "I think you're right. All of this, it feels like a new start. I didn't know I needed it until now." That night, after the horses were settled, they sat together on the porch of the ranch house. The stars sparkled above, and the cool breeze carried the gentle sounds of the countryside. There was a comfortable silence between them, filled with shared understanding. They spoke softly about the days ahead, about how they could train Hope, care for the animals, and perhaps even work toward Emma's dream of a small sanctuary. The possibilities felt endless, and the sense of purpose was shared between them. Over the next few weeks, Emma continued to train Hope, with Luke's guidance. Thunder grew stronger and more confident, enjoying the presence of both Emma and Hope. The three formed a small, harmonious group, each learning from the others. Emma's confidence grew as she learned more about horse training, ranch life, and the patience required to nurture and care for animals. Luke's respect and admiration for Emma deepened, and he found himself relying on her insight and gentle guidance in ways he had never expected. The bond between Emma and Luke grew quietly but steadily. They shared moments of laughter, teamwork, and quiet reflection. The ranch, once just a place of routine and work, had become a place of life, hope, and connection. Emma realized that what had started as a single act of kindness, saving Thunder, had blossomed into something far greater: trust, friendship, and the beginning of a shared journey. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in brilliant shades of gold and pink, Emma rode Hope alongside Luke and Thunder across the open pastures. The horses moved steadily, their hooves making rhythmic sounds on the dirt trail. The wind brushed against Emma's face, and she felt a sense of freedom, joy, and fulfillment she had never known before. Luke rode beside her, a calm presence that made the moment feel complete. As they reached the edge of the pasture, Emma looked at Luke, her eyes reflecting the warmth of the setting sun. "I can't believe how much has changed in just a few days," she said softly. Luke nodded. "Neither can I, and it's not just the horses, it's everything. You've changed this place. You've changed me." Emma smiled, a quiet happiness spreading through her chest. "And you've changed me too. You've shown me trust, patience, and that helping others can change lives in ways we don't expect." As the stars began to twinkle above, Emma and Luke rode back slowly, the horses moving in a gentle, steady rhythm. The bond they had formed with each other and with the horses was undeniable. It was a bond built on trust, care, and shared purpose, a bond that had started with saving a single horse and had grown into something far greater. In that moment, they understood that their lives had been forever changed. A simple act of kindness had led to hope, growth, and connection. The ranch was no longer just a place of work, It had become a place of life, friendship, and possibility. And as they watched the last rays of sunlight disappear behind the hills, they both knew that this was just the beginning of a journey that would continue to shape their hearts, their dreams, and their lives forever.